Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are trying something a little different this time. We're in the format that is better for our IG side, and actually we are working it out with Gentleman's Nod. So it works out better for him, but we're going to try something a little different. But in the beginning, I am going to give you an introduction to Gentleman's Nod right before I bring him on. His name is Chris. Great guy. I got to meet him at Scent Explorer, and looking forward to finding out and introducing to you guys more about the house, more about the origins, kind of give you a backstory of knowing more about Chris, and we'll get into the great fragrances that he has. So we will start with just giving you a quick introduction.
What's up, Fragrance Connoisseurs? We're at Gentleman's Nod out of Nebraska. I believe I got it right this time.
Sure.
Yep. So introduce yourself in the line.
My name is Chris Christensen. I'm the owner-operator of Gentleman's Nod. These were our releases that we had this year. Right now, kind of debuting Lawman at the show. Outlaw and Lawman were released as a pair, essentially Old West archetypes, hence the mustache and the hat here. But excited to be here.
Nice.
Come check us out, gentlemansnod.com.
Yep. Appreciate it. So here's the line we're going to look at. They got Kinsey, I believe that's right. Passion Prove. I don't know if I got Outlaw, Lawman, Damascus. Tusitala. Yeah, I wasn't going to get that right. And Saddam, I believe. They also have soaps and shaving beard and mustache. So we will put a link when we put this up on the site, and we appreciate it. Again, thank you, Gentleman's Nod.
Yep. And without further ado, here he is, Chris from Gentleman's Nod.
Hello.
So it has been a minute since I saw you at Scent Explorer, but good to see you again. Hope you are feeling better. I know.
I'm hanging in there. Thanks,
Okay.
PR.
Well, we're going to go through just a little bit into the chat and say hello to everybody. I know Joel was here. Welcome, sir. And you have Ferragamo Uomo. I will get into my scent of the day in a second. But then we also have the main cologne. Welcome, sir. We have Jesus. We have Mr. Esteban. Welcome, sir. And let's see, who else do we have? That's about it for right now. Sorry, we started a little bit late, but we're into it now. Here is my scent of the day, which is Damascus #1. This one was one of the ones that instantly caught my eye when I was there. I am a sucker for cardamom. And this has a good dose of cardamom in the beginning. What I also like about this is when I started looking into it, I basically bought this off of smell. But then to see the backstory of Damascus and the city of Damascus and how you came to bring about the creation of the fragrance, because in my standpoint, I always say every scent tells a story, and that this one is telling the story of the ancient city of Damascus, going with the Damascus steel, the Damascus rose that is also well known for, and some of the spices like cardamom that are well known in the Eastern style. So I really love this fragrance. And like I said, this was one of it. I knew nothing about Gentleman's Nod when I came to Scent Explorer. I saw he had a really interesting mustache and beard and a hat.
I think it might be longer now.
Probably. And it drew me to him. And so I wanted to hear what it was. And when I smelled this one, I was drawn in. So this one was the one that got me there. We will go with I'm gonna introduce you to the house, introduce you to him, ask him some questions. And if there's anybody that has a question, I will address that when I see it in the chat.
I got one quick question for you first.
Yes, sir.
Where did your love affair with cardamom start?
When did I don't know exactly when my love affair with cardamom started, but what I started to realize is that a lot of the fragrances that I loved had the note of cardamom. And so then I went to the perfumer's apprentice and I got some individual notes, and I got the individual note of cardamom to realize that that's the note that I am particularly drawn to. So a lot of people in the chat will know that if it has cardamom in it, they're like, "Oh yeah, Charm's gonna love it. Charm's gonna love it."
So for me, just really quickly, I was a kid, so a lot of my inspiration for fragrances comes from food and beverage, really. But part of my heritage is I'm Danish, and my grandfather used to make every Christmas morning would make a Danish kind of breakfast pastry called abeskyr, and it had a healthy dose of cardamom in it. And I love not only the smell but the taste of cardamom since I was a child. So that's kind of where cardamom began with me, and I've loved it ever since. So
interesting. Actually, last May I went to Denmark.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I went to Copenhagen.
Amazing.
And I went to Aarhus, and also in Copenhagen I got to visit the Viking Shipbuilding Museum. So, and then I got to go to a couple of the castles out there. Frederiksborg. I went to the first church that they built there, and I went to the castle that was right off of the bay overlooking towards Sweden. I have to remember. Yeah, Frederiksborg was not that one. That one, I'll have to remember what that one was. But yeah, it was
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is very, very nice. Very, very nice. So we have some people on the IG side. Miss Lena, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Dan, not the man, sir. Shave and chat. I have gotten a lot of shave and chat people that have liked our collaboration that we put together. So I know that is one thing that has a lot to do with how Gentleman Nod started. So,
for sure.
The first question I would want to ask is, what inspired you to start Gentleman's Nod?
So that kind of story goes back probably close to 15 years ago. So about 15 years ago, I was sort of introduced to the traditional wet shaving community through a blog post, and I from that time on, just reading how doing things excellently with, the best tools available, the best, techniques and products and those kinds of things, how not only you could have much better results, but also enjoy yourself while you're doing it. So it's not just, I got to shave, I got to get it done, I have to do it anyway, but actually um, doing something with, excellence and enjoying yourself in the process. So I got pretty into that going back, like I said, about 15 years ago. I used to collect like vintage razors, vintage brushes, very deep down the rabbit hole, like I said, about 15 years ago. And that's kind of where it started. But my, love affair with like the men's grooming space and fragrances and all of that never went away. So, after that kind of, period of time, I was still super passionate about it, ended up going to work in that field, worked in sales management for the art of shaving, did even, multi-store, traveled around, trained people, hired for other stores in other cities. And then, still passionate about it. I put a soap lab in my basement because I wanted to learn how to make soap. So it was just kind of, it never, from that very first time that I was kind of introduced to that, it just, my passion, not only continued, but continued to grow. And along that path too, I had fragrances, in my high school days and things like that. I think my first fragrance was either Dakar, Noir, or Eternity. So Eternity, right after it came out, actually. But my love affair for fragrances was rekindled during this time because so many of the products had such amazing scents attached to them. So, during that time, I was really attracted to like some of the old English brands like Penhaligon's and Trumpers and those kinds of brands that had not only fragrance houses, Creed, but the products as well. And so kind of reintroduced to fragrances through that world, actually. And, starting Gentleman's Nod, being creating, I created our original fragrances myself. I'm not a perfumer. I will tell you that right up front. I did my best with, I do have a nose, but it's something different to actually put the fragrances together yourself. There's just, a different level of expertise that goes into that and knowledge and experience. But I did the first ones myself, and eventually got hooked up with Mon. And once I started working with them, we first reformulated the original scents that I did, and just was blown away by what they could do. They really brought out what I was attempting to do myself. And just made some really beautiful fragrances out of it. So, ever since then, I just, it's become more and more my passion, actually designing fragrance. So.
Nice. So yeah, that's just shouting out to people that are coming on the live. Actually, we've got a guy who is basically saying, in the scent of the day, Damascus #1 is going to be his first one from the house. I'm going to put up, and it's gentlemansnod.com, but I'll have it in the description after we get finished. Just wanted to let everybody know. And as you come in at, so what was the first fragrance that you started? I know you said you started, actually, you developed the first fragrance.
Sure. The first one that we worked with Mon on from the ground up as a perfume was actually Musashi.
Okay.
So Musashi is a very you think of it very, very yuzu forward in the front. But it's got a little bit of sweetness from nashi pear, the kind of Asian pear. a little bit of pink pepper, so a little bit of spiciness comes in there. But it was really built around the heart of jasmine tea, so jasmine green tea.
Nice.
So everything was kind of built around that to work in harmony with that, and most of the notes in Musashi were taken from that region as well in Japan.
Nice. Okay. There are a lot of fragrances. Tea is another note that I like. And there's a lot of fragrances that I like that have a black tea or oolong tea or different types of teas are really something that I gravitate towards as well. So, how did you get connected with Mon? I know I saw that Damascus because of course, after I got it, I bought it solely off of the way it smelled. But after I got it, I realized Claude Deer, the master perfumer, was the one who worked on this, and I like a lot of his work. And
Mm-hmm.
he's connected with Mon, and then some of the other perfumers that you work with, of course, are connected with Mon as well. How did that relationship happen?
So I would say early on, this was 2019, not too long after we started. We actually for several years did products for Zaharoff. So
Okay.
um, we did products in their fragrances, and yeah. So initially through that, I think George introduced me to his rep at Mon was the initial connection there. Yeah,
That is interesting. I didn't know that you because I know Claude Deer does a lot for Zahara.
for
I
sure.
didn't know that was the way that you got introduced to him.
Yeah.
That's great.
And
That-
this year was the first time we ever got to work with Claude, and it was just something really special, and just to see his process, the way he works, and the level at which he produces is just it's truly something special, magical.
Wow. So I guess one question I want to have is kind of what brought you to Scent Explore, and how did that develop? Because I guess that's where I met you at.
Sure. So, if you notice that space that I was actually exhibiting in is all companies that do fragrances with Mon.
Oh, wow.
So Mon has had a fragrance lounge within Scent Explore, and they offered some of the spaces up based on a time schedule to different companies that uh, produce their fragrances with Mon.
Nice. That's interesting. That's interesting as well. So of course we know you started. So when you started with say the grooming products and the shaving creams and stuff, did you always know that you were going to add fragrances to it?
So from the very beginning, I always wanted to. However, I knew from when I first created the fragrances for our products that they weren't really at a level that I would say that somebody would want to wear it as a perfume, and so I knew that I would need additional help in order to kind of move more of that direction. So over time, the easy answer to that is yes, I did, but we weren't there yet in the beginning. Yeah.
Okay. I guess the other big thing is I only have one. I'm going to have some more. I'm going to buy some more definitely. But I wanted you to kind of talk to the group. There's a lot of people that are interested. And like I said, just from the center of the day, have a guy saying that this will be his first one from the house, but wanted to see you to kind of give an introduction to the line and some that stick out to you and just kind of give us your thoughts of it and what basically are the prevailing notes, what's the prevailing feeling of it, what was the inspiration of it.
Yeah, for sure. I think, did we go through Damascus basically? I mean,
You can give your take on it. I mean, basically, I gave kind of my take on it. Well,
sure.
no, I really didn't. It starts out with cardamom and black pepper, in my opinion.
Mhm.
It's really spicy and nice, and then it gets sweetened with some fig milk. And as that goes into a transition, it transitions into kind of like a rose comes in, and then it goes into the dry down. But I really think that this is an exceptional fragrance. It's has a little bit of a leathery kind of nuance. I
The
believe it's
saffron.
right, and then it also has a tobacco kind of a nuance in it as well. And I'm trying to.
I think the tobacco really shines in the base.
It does. It
The
does.
interesting thing about this one for me is there's this kind of overall it's a fairly dry fragrance. I wouldn't call it sweet by any means. However, there's this kind of thread of sweetness that does run through it. Starting off with that fig, it's kind of more of a creamy fig, but it runs through also the Divana and the rose have kind of a honeyed nuance to them.
Yes.
On their own, there is honey elements to both of those, and I think that's one of my favorite things that just runs throughout this whole thing is there's this slight kind of honey nuance that I think is really unique.
It is, and I guess it's kind of, I think, considered a warmer fragrance. So to me, it's at least 3 seasons. It does give.
Sure.
So I know it's a tribute to like Damascus Steel. It does kind of give a colder vibe to it, but I can't really place where that's coming from.
Yeah, as far as that goes, that would be difficult too. I guess there's some green notes, so potentially that. But yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe just picking up on the name.
It's a phenomenal fragrance though. I really, like I said, I bought maybe one from a few houses, and yours was one that I definitely made sure that I was going to come and buy after I smelled it. I was really blown away by it. I thought it was a phenomenal fragrance.
And I believe you probably smelled this one. It's funny that you bring up cardamom, and I guess I hadn't necessarily thought of it, but we actually use cardamom a lot, and I think subconsciously it's something that always kicks in my brain because cardamom. Not only do I love the note, but it can be used in so many different ways. Like cardamom is something that really works within a fragrance to if you've got certain sharp notes that you want to kind of soften, it does that. If you have got notes that seem kind of disconnected, or it can actually help pull things together. So it works really well. This is Lawman. I think you may have smelled Lawman.
I did. That was one of the ones that was featured at Sin Explorer. Lawman was an outlaw and Lawman.
Yeah, Lawman was that was kind of the debut for it, but this has a cardamom note in the open as well. And the Lawman for me is just, I mean, it was Claude Deer as well, but this one kind of really fresh and green in the open. You've got cypress and again the cardamom, and then you've got a little bit of spicy nuance from pink pepper, but just a little bit. And the kind of star in this is for me at least, is the mesquite. Mesquite's really unique in fragrances, not used very often, and can be very easily overdone because it's a very powerful note.
Yeah, it's a pungent wood. It really is.
But again, the cardamom was actually added later on in this one to kind of mellow out that mesquite note. Okay. And then the other thing, which was Claude's idea in terms of trying to mellow out that mesquite note, is he brought in a couple elements in the mid with that mesquite that are just beautiful. One of my favorite parts of it is the aromatic thyme. So there's a little bit of thyme in here and a sweetness from an apple in the mid too.
That brings up, as you're going through how those notes, it brings up kind of a question, the process. So the process of starting, let's say Lawman, did you give them kind of a syllabus of this is what my thought pattern is, and does that get it rolling? Or how's the process start when you work with Mon to get that rolling?
So typically when I provide a brief to Mon, it's I usually give it to him in multiple different formats. So I will describe the feeling I want the fragrance to give. I will also kind of give them an idea of the backstory, what I'm trying to accomplish with the fragrance.
Okay.
But I kind of go a step further in that as well, and usually provide them with sort of guidelines and a framework for specific notes even. So by the time that I bring a brief to Mon, I have a pretty good idea of what I want this fragrance to be.
Okay.
So that being said, I do want, because the perfumers there are world class, and I do want their creative input as well. But at the same time, like I said, I do have a pretty good idea of what I want the fragrance to be, or else I don't even bring them the brief. So
Okay. So do you know like specific notes, or and you tell them I wanted to feature
I
this?
I do, and that being said, a lot of times when I bring them a brief, I will say, as far as specific notes go, I will give them specific notes these are kind of, must-haves for me, and then I will also provide ones that I think are kind of suggestion, and I will communicate the difference. This is more of a suggestion. This is something I absolutely want to have in here. So I do that as well.
Nice. And how long does it kind of take from start to finish?
It really depends on how many modifications there are. Is probably the it can be fairly quick. 2-3 months if there's really not much in terms of modification. To give you an example, when I got Lawman back, the only issue I had with it, I absolutely loved it, but the mesquite note combined with some of the green notes in the top were giving a little bit of sharpness, and the mesquite was just a little bit overpowering in my mind. So I suggested the cardamom, like I said, to smooth things out. And then Claude was the one who suggested the aromatic thyme, which is one of my favorite parts of this fragrance now. And then just a little bit of sweetness from the apple. But this was only one modification from the original.
Wow.
So that, that's really quick. When I got submissions from Claude on this, I mean, it's basically, I get a finished fragrance more or less. It's just, are there any changes you would like to make, or any rough edges you want to smooth out, or those kinds of things. So
That's a really quick turnaround. So I guess you're given a good brief, and basically since you've done some perfume making yourself, it kind of helps things move it along. I guess that's
I
really
have smelled quite a few things. So like I think that's awesome what you said you did, buying individual components from like a perfumer's apprentice,
right.
because it's, without knowing what something smells like on its own, it's very hard to conceptualize how it may work in a fragrance, or how it may play with other ingredients. So that's dedication.
I do love it.
Yeah,
It's an expensive hobby, but it is a very nice hobby.
for sure.
So
Um, Go ahead.
no, I was just thinking. I kind of interrupted you in that. Did you finish what you were saying about Lawman, or?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so. The base in Lawman is really, deep, dark, and mysterious. There's some really unique notes in that one, and the performance is really excellent too. The longevity on that. Most of our fragrances are done at straight strength, so they're not necessarily going to project, a mile. Um, I would say, for Lawman, you're going to get probably a little bit more than an arm's length for you know, 4 hours or so. But, you know, after that, you're going to go more like elbow. And then, but the longevity is I'm talking 8, 12 hours,
It
you know,
is.
some
It's incredible.
possibly even the next day.
Yeah. Damascus lasts more than 10 hours on skin. It's incredible. The longevity is incredible. And actually, I was about to just talk about that they are straight to parfum. So are all of your fragrances straights?
For the most part, yes. We have a citrus aromatic, kind of a Mediterranean inspired citrus aromatic that was done at 22%. So technically still an straight, though it behaves more like,
And
you know, an eau de parfum or, yeah.
cool, cool. So I believe you won the golden pineapple. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes. So tell me about that. That had to be a great time for us. Actually, I think the picture is on our thumbnails.
Yeah. So I don't have that fragrance with me right now, but that was a super fun one. It was a collaboration within the shaving community, actually. But we wanted to create a sort of a fun, boozy fragrance, and particularly using more of a whiskey type note.
Okay.
But at the same time, it needed to be a summer fragrance, so not super heavy or anything like that. And I I think I mentioned that food and drink provide inspiration for me a lot of times. So there's a pretty simple cocktail, but a cocktail. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of the Moscow Mule, correct?
Yes, I have heard of Moscow Mule.
So this is a riff off of that. It's a Kentucky Mule. So you swap the vodka for whiskey.
Okay.
So that's really the only difference there. But what that one is it's a really fantastic, what I would call spiced lime fragrance. The So you've got quite a bit of spice in there. You've got ginger, you've got coriander, cardamom again. Like I said, I think cardamom may actually be our most used fragrance note.
So you're gonna
Oddly
end up
enough,
having me be your ambassador for
it's so funny because
cardamom and all those.
until you mentioned that, I may not have been actually aware of that, but yeah, it's probably our most used note. Yeah,
Nice. So we
super
got
funny.
Raucous Retread, and he is about to order Musashi. So
Nice.
nice. Thank you, everyone. Um, give us give us another one. Give us another one. Introduce
So
another house.
one that I absolutely adore, and you know, I think it's great year round. It's probably better in spring, summer, and fall. Is Tusitala. I'm not sure if you had the chance to
I
smell
did
that
have a
one.
chance to smell it. I butchered it when I tried to say it.
So there's cardamom in this too.
Of course.
But Tusitala is just I got the inspiration, actually, was rereading Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island again, and just like
Nice.
kind of daydreaming about kind of what it would have been to be like to be on a, you know, this is going back even further. So say, you know, 15, you know, 16th century, on a, you know, full masted ship, like coming into like port and having lots of traders bring, you know, tropical fruits and flowers and, you know, things like that to the ships, and just kind of wondering what all that would smell like, along with, you know, the things that you might get on the ship itself when you're talking about rum and tobacco and, you know, those kinds of things. So that was kind of the inspiration for this. So it's just this beautiful sort of tropical, slightly boozy, with tobacco and the dry down. So the open is going to be really fresh and tropical. You've got a little bit of mango, some spices, green peach, and mango are kind of the fruitiness in the open. And then you've got some more spices. You've got saffron, so you've got a little bit of a leathery note in there. But the tobacco, the natural tobacco leaf in the dry down, I just adore with this.
Nice.
And I think this is, I probably would say that it leans towards, you could wear it, any time of day, but I think it's probably leans more towards evening, and really good for a date night type fragrance too. Really, really beautiful fragrance. One of my favorites.
Tusitala, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a question. Do you kind of have a line that goes through all of them? So say like the shaving cream, the soap, and even to the fragrance. So is there anything that goes to it where if someone really likes a scent DNA profile, that they can basically overdose on it?
For the most part, currently, most of our fragrances, you can get the products in those fragrances as well. Like, to give you an example, we were talking about Damascus earlier, even Tusitala, you've got a shaving soap, an aftershave splash. You've got a beard oil and a bar soap. And so there's a pretty good range of products that go along with it that you can kind of build on, and it's the same fragrance throughout. It will slightly vary depending in the application, but they all layer really well for sure.
That's really cool to be able to layer the same fragrance, especially we got a lot of people who are growing beards. I keep my beard relatively small. Plus, I have some spots that just don't grow. I guess I may work on that. And some people telling me that you can figure that out. But just to be able to use, you don't necessarily want a beard oil that is going to be different than the fragrance you're wearing, or you want it to be complementary. So
For sure.
I would think that would be a great thing to have, especially to coordinate that in that type of way.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Pretty cool. So I think we'll go. Do you have another one that you wanna talk about and give to?
I mean, I've got several more. Somebody mentioned Sadama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sadama is one.
So Sadama, did you smell that? Did you get to smell that one?
I think I got to smell most of them, and they were. I think I really like Sadama. I think I did like Tusitala, Outlaw, and Lawman. So those are the ones at the time. What I can also tell everybody, prices are very reasonable. I really think for the quality and it's straight to the parfum, he's got a really good price point, and I think it's really a great find. I really do think that's a great find. So when you get on and look at it on the website, I think you'll be very impressed.
Sadama, it was so this was actually I'm not sure if your viewers are familiar with the Art and Olfaction Awards, but Sadama was a finalist last year for Art and Olfaction, which there's thousands of submissions and only 10 finalists, so was pleasantly surprised and a little bit shocked and humbled to even get to that point. But Sadama is really just such a beautiful and unique fragrance to me. It was inspired by my love of Ethiopian natural processed coffee.
Okay. Wow.
So they harvest the beans and they let them dry with the fruit on it. So the bean takes kind of the everything that the coffee cherry itself has, kind of absorbs some of that. So you've got like kind of boozy nuances, fruity nuances with like blueberry and berries and those kinds of things that get infused into the bean itself by that process. But the way that this is built, which is pretty unique, is if you think about taking the components of that coffee and deconstructing them, so adding like, a rum and a little bit of fruit, apricot, berries, and then we did actually use a kind of adding back in the coffee component with a natural, natural coffee extract. So we used a real coffee extract in this, and then
Nice.
coffee also many times will carry a chocolate or cacao note to it. So that, that's kind of built into there too. There's an iris in there, and then a little bit of, woods and patchouli in the base, but such a beautiful, unique fragrance. I think it's a very unique take on coffee, I would say. Not
That
your
is.
typical coffee fragrance.
And that's another thing. Your fragrances are unique, so they are really nice. We did get a question, and we have not discussed Kensei yet. Could you discuss that one?
Yeah, so Kensei was based off of our very first release, Musashi. So I guess you could say technically a flanker to Musashi. But what I wanted to do with Kensei, so Musashi was more of that sort of yuzu, yellow mandarin, those kinds of things in the top with pink pepper, and then in the mid it was all around that jasmine green tea, and then so what we wanted to do with Kensei is we wanted to make it a little bit kind of darker in a way. So we swapped the pink pepper for black pepper.
Okay.
We switched some of the fruits in the open, so it's got a pretty prominent blood orange open.
Blood orange, that's nice.
And then I wanted the orange note to continue into the mid, so we brought in kind of a sparkling neroli, which being having orange nuances to it as well, kind of extended the life of that orange into the mid. But rather than that jasmine green tea, we did a very unique black tea called Lapsang Souchong tea.
I know about Lapsang. There's a couple fragrances that have that tea in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's smoke dried over pine, so it's got it's a darker, slightly smoky, slightly piney, citrusy kind of black tea, and again black pepper rather than pink pepper, and brought in a little bit more spice in the base with saffron, a little bit more cedar wood into the base as well, and so it's kind of a slightly darker, slightly smokier take on Musashi, where Musashi is very much yuzu, jasmine tea.
It's so interesting how just changing out a note from like black pepper to pink pepper can kind of change the
Huge difference.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and we changed all three, like if you want to call them phases of this fragrance, but we changed things about the open, the mid, and the base, going from Musashi to Kensei. So
Wonderful. Wonderful. Anybody else, if you got a question, feel free to put it in the chat. Otherwise, I'll say give us another fragrance to whet our appetite for Gentleman's Nod.
So I know you tried to pronounce that one too.
Not very well.
Yeah, I love the artwork on this, but the my designer's a Frenchman, so when I was kind of going back and forth about the name, I wanted this one to actually describe the fragrance itself, because this is a very peppery and passion fruit forward fragrance. So we settled on the name Peppered Passion, but in French, Passion Poivré.
That's
And so this one is really kind of fun and playful, but has very different. It's very different from the open to the dry down. Very, very different. So in the open, you got a slightly boozy kind of because you've got rum in the open, but you've got kind of the passion fruit is kind of cool in a sense. So it kind of gives you the impression of say a cocktail on the beach or something like that, an iced cocktail on the beach. You've got rum, you've got the passion fruit note, you've got some citrus with like just a lemon zest, grapefruit, bergamot, and then a little bit of ginger. So there is a little bit of spice there too.
okay.
In the mid is where the spice, the pepper really comes in. There's a pretty unique pepper called Timor pepper. It's kind of a cousin to Szechuan, but way more citrusy nuance. So kind of like gives off kind of grapefruit-ish vibes to it.
Okay.
But so there's a ton of this pepper, which also made it quite expensive to make. But this pepper is very, very unique. And then you've got saffron. You've got a little bit of jasmine and green apple in there as well.
That sounds really nice. I don't remember this one as well. I'll definitely. I guess that would bring up a question. Do you have any kind of like discovery sets or anything like that?
So right now, I am working on one. We sell carded samples. So best way to do it probably right now is to pick the carded samples that you want and kind of go that route. But I am working on one. We'll have it at some point this year. I just not exactly sure when. But to finish out on this one, kind of the big change comes in like, in the mid. The saffron leads into kind of a leathery, ambery, dry down in this one. Because there's leather in the base, there's that saffron in the mid. So you've got kind of a leathery, ambery finish on this one, which is very different from that very fun, slightly boozy, fruity open.
Got it. That's really cool. So I think those are the main questions that I had. You've worked with some great, like Claude Deer is a great guy. I've never directly heard of Ugo Charon,
He
but
was at Scent Explorer actually.
okay, and I didn't meet him. That's
Super cool
but
guy.
I
He has
saw
a
he had
band
Sadama
and they performed there. Yeah.
okay. Sadama and Calabria are the two that he did. And then Kinsey, and then I saw Vincent
Kaczynski.
Kaczynski.
Yeah. Bertuzzi-Talla.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean that is really a great story. I mean your whole story of how you started, and then what you started with yourself, and then how you did the kicking it up a notch and like Emerald, you took it to a different level. That is a great thing. I'm wondering, and this is just comes up, did the pandemic do anything for like your growth, or did people start finding more out about you from there?
That's really interesting. So that was fairly early on. We did release the first fragrance with Zahara signature in products in 2020. So I'm sure there because of that there was certainly some interest, but yeah, I mean that was when we were fairly new for sure in 2020. because we had started in 2019, really.
That's really cool. That is really cool that you helped do some of the products in Zahara's fragrances. That shows a small world, but definitely brings in Mon and how they came around, because I
Yeah.
know Zahara works a lot with Mon, so that's
Yep.
really cool. That's really cool. Um, any other fragrances that you want to? And I'm trying to look through it. I've asked all the questions that I've had, but if there's anything else that you want to uh, bring to the group, this will actually be it's recorded and it'll go on, and I will also work to put some more information together about Gentleman's Nod so that we can also present that to our people as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have one more with me right now. This was the second half of the um,
Oh yeah, you got to do, if you did the Lawman, you got to do the Outlaw.
Outlaws and Lawmen series. This was the first series that we did with Claude Deer, and this is so if Lawman was a little bit more slightly more on the dry side and a little bit more kind of all business. This one's a little bit more playful, I would say, a little bit sweeter. Um,
Okay. And I think I did put it, I hope it's right, gentlemansnod.com. I think I put it right into the chat for everybody, but I will update it and make sure it's in the description afterwards.
so this one, in the like I said, a little bit sweeter, a little bit more playful. In the open, you've got like charred orange. I'm not sure if you've ever um, when I was getting this business started, I worked Friday and Saturday nights. After I left my job, I worked Friday and Saturday nights as a bartender,
Okay.
and worked in craft cocktails a lot. And if you would express an orange peel and then light it on fire, you get a spark because it's flammable.
Right.
But that smell is really unique too, like with um, from the oils from the orange and a little bit of the smokiness. So you kind of try to duplicate that. So you've got a kind of a charred orange nuance in the open to this one.
Nice. I actually have been a bartender before when I was in college.
Okay.
Yeah, I've lit with the coffee beans. I've lit Sambuca, but I've never lit a orange peel. That's interesting.
Yep, for sure. And then pretty prominent in here is cinnamon bark. So it kind of runs through the open, like all the way through this fragrance. A little bit more spicy with black pepper, but this one doesn't it doesn't ever go too dark or too heavy because you've got a really fresh clary sage in the mid that also kind of helps carry through and helps us to maintain its freshness kind of throughout the fragrance. The sweetness is coming in the mid. You've got like tonka and kind of a plum and leather accord. So
Nice.
you've got a little bit of leather and sweetness from plum, and then in the base you've got kind of creamy like cashmere woods, a little bit of resins from with a vanilla aspect from benzoin, cedar wood, a little bit of vetiver.
Definitely.
But this
That
is
was
the more fun and playful, side of the Outlaws and Lawmen series. Yeah.
Yeah, both of those were really nice when I was there at Scent Explore. Definitely, those are two that people should get their nose on, especially.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. We got. I didn't realize. So there are a lot of people that knew a lot about Gentleman's Nod that were here. Again, the shaving group that I saw going around and liking the collaboration with you. I didn't realize it was that many people that were in that whole niche. That was really interesting. All the people.
Yeah, it's I mean quite the community. I mean it's so funny operating in I mean the fragrant now we're kind of just kind of starting to be introduced in the fragrance community, but starting in the shaving community, and then the beard and mustache community is completely different too. It's like there's overlaps between all of them, and it's one of the things that definitely overlaps all of them is on the fragrance side, because a lot of the shaving community loves fragrance, and same with the beard. So yeah.
It is interesting, and people really don't understand how prevalent fragrance is, in that there are perfumers that work with the normal everyday things that we smell. And it has a lot to do with our senses, because they are cleaning products that
Oh yeah,
have a smell, and they actually engineer that. It's not
for
like
sure.
it's by chance that it
No,
happens.
professional perfumers working on your fabric softener.
Right.
So, yeah, yeah,
I learned that later, but I did. It was a very interesting to see how the progression, and what fragrance does for so many products that we actually buy. It was incredible to get that perspective of it.
yeah. It's just I love the world of fragrance. It's so great how it brings in kind of thoughts and memories and things like that. I'm working on my scent of the day. What I was wearing today was one that we're working on right now. That's based off of my first scent memory. So I
Okay.
was 2 years old, kind of half walking, half crawling through a garden, and just the fragrances that were going on in the garden, and it's amazing. I don't remember a whole lot from that time in my life, but I remember those smells.
That brings up an interesting question that I forgot. So what's coming on the horizon for Gentleman's Nod in 2025? So I know you just said that one is going to be one. Is there anything else that we're looking forward to?
Yeah, so that's probably going to be the first one. I am working on another tea fragrance. So kind of uh, a it's going to be in the same kind of lineup as Musashi, but we're changing everything up again. um, and then we're going to be going in a more gourmand direction later on this year, which we haven't really done yet, I would say. There's certain aspects to fragrances that we've done that you could, say that carried some gourmand nuances, or were gourmand adjacent, but this one is probably more so than we've ever done before. Yeah.
Nice, nice. That is wonderful. So we do have and I believe that one's right. So it's gentlemen's is there's just the snod.com, right? I did get that right.
Yep. Gentleman's nod. Yep.
Yep. Not men's. Yeah, I had to find that out when I was looking for it. But yeah, I did. Anything else you want to address? Anybody else? And let's see, Hidden Gems just came in. So smell of
If
gems.
anyone had any questions, that would be it though. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is your last chance. If anybody has any more questions, and we'll give it just a couple seconds to see if a question comes up. But otherwise, definitely, I appreciated it. I definitely was trying to reach out to you a couple times afterwards, and glad that we got a chance to link up, because I really enjoyed meeting you at Scent Explorer. I thought your fragrances were really great, and especially since that was the first time I was ever introduced to the house, wanted to make sure that some other people that are part of this channel were introduced to the house. It seems like some people knew it more than I thought, but I'm definitely glad that we were able to get Gentleman's Nods out there. And we'll definitely look to see how, when you come up with new things, we can get more interaction and try to get more of your fragrances to the community, because I think you're a great brand, great quality. You're working with great perfumers, and it's definitely showing, and all your success is well deserved. Well deserved.
Thank you, JR. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. There's one. Let's see. We got a couple questions. How long did it take Chris to grow out?
So I started this at the beginning of April, but I have cut it once. I cut half an inch to 3/4 of an inch off. When I grow a mustache out, I leave it alone for 6 months. I won't touch it at all.
Wow.
But after a certain period of time, it's probably better. I mean, you can just like, cutting your hair encourages your hair to grow. So I have trimmed this, the ends once, but I started in April. I've never gone for a year, and that's kind of been my goal, right now. Plus, I'm working on a new product within the beard and mustache category, so. I need to be able to test it. So I can't really shave right now anyway, but drives my wife nuts to have it this long. But yeah, so I guess what is that, 9 months or something like that?
Yeah, because it was pretty long for the show as well.
But it was more styled up then, so it's yeah.
Right. So and then are there any plans on working with other houses for shave sets?
Not at the moment. I mean, I'm not completely closed off to the idea, but no current plans. I would say there's going to be a lot of changes within, our brand coming up this year. We're growing, so you'll see some, kind of, I guess you could call them upgrades from us, in formulas, in packaging, and the way products are presented when you purchase on our site and get them. So like unboxing and that kinds of things. So yeah, we're working on everything from the top down. So even the website's going to change. We're working on that right now.
Wow, I thought the website was pretty cool, so it'd be interesting to see what it changes this year.
It's going to be much more streamlined and kind of intuitive. Yeah.
Cool. Well, sir, I really appreciate it. I'll stay in touch and looking forward to what's coming out. So we definitely want to stay in touch and see how we can get more from Gentleman's Knot.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Thanks for everyone that jumped on.
Yes, sir. Well, Fragrance Connoisseurs, we appreciate it. Take care. God bless.
Yes, you can. And I sniff, 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 yes, you can. On. And I sniff it to all the people who like frags like Charm City does. Made this track so you really know what live was. Come together over fragrances. That's the why, cuz getting love and support from the vibers. Put your sense of the day to check, cuz no wrong sense where whatever and for just because. Positivity and love with a live hug. A life full of fragrances, what I love. Finding hidden gems from the order Rose Dove. Negativity and fighting is what we're above. Try to diss, we throw up the hand with a big shrug. Like a card of positives, it's a plus love. If you wanna cause drama, you won't even think of us. The connoisseurs fly high like a dove. And I sniff, yes you can. 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 And I sniff, yes you can.